Welcome back to the 90% podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Matthews. We're here, episode 5. I can't believe we've already done 5 episodes. And today I have a very special guest, EJ Murray. How you doing today, EJ?
Man, I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Happy to be here with you.
Sweet. I'm excited to have you on. Thank you for coming. And I'm going to do a quick introduction of you, but then I really just want you to introduce yourself. So from what I know, EJ is a great person, a great dad, a great one of the best basketball minds that I've talked to in this Brevard County area. He runs a travel program called East Coast United, where they have boys and girls sides. It's him and his father that run it. They built it up to be one of the biggest travel programs, not only in Florida, but in the whole southeastern United States. He's also coached high school basketball. I believe he's an assistant right now, and he's developed girls and boys from super young players, I think 3rd grade, all the way up to being McDonald's All-Americans. So not to say the very least, he knows what he's talking about as far as basketball development goes, and I'm excited for this episode to hear and pick into his brain. So how was that introduction, EJ?
That was great. I can't say too much more than that. So, that's awesome.
Cool. And so give us a little bit more, though. You can't give us a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a community guy. Grown up here in Brevard County, got into coaching right when I got out of college. Played ball over at FIT, and as soon as I graduated, jumped right into travel ball with my dad, coaching a boys team, 10th grade boys, and then the following year, he needed some help on the girls side, and so I dived into girls basketball, and I've been coaching ever since, man. So I coached over at Florida Prep for a few years, won a few state championships there. And now I'm over at Palm Bay High School helping Coach Sarah Morano out. She's a great coach over there. And then got a lot more involved with my dad with East Coast United.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. And so you've been coaching for about 10 years?
Yeah.
I'd say?
Yeah, man. It's actually about, 14 years
14 years. Holy cow. Yeah, so you learn a lot of knowledge within that time, right?
Yeah, man.
And so what would you say was the transition? How was the transition from being a player to being a coach? I know it's been a while, but was that an easy transition for you, or? It
was tough. I think early on, you think that you can coach just because you played, and that's really not the truth. I think coaching is education, just like anything.
Oh, yeah.
You got to spend time, you got to learn. Developing players and stuff, it's not something to be taken lightly. So just because you played, that definitely doesn't mean that you can coach.
Absolutely. I tell players and parents and coaches all the time that a lot of times the best players have no idea how they are doing those moves or how they became the best. They just did it, right? And so coaching, being able to teach that to other people, you have to kind of have an understanding of skill development, basketball knowledge, spacing, everything like that.
For sure.
And so I said that word spacing. That's one of I've learned a lot from you coming to your practices and everything, but doing that 2-on-0 stuff, doing 3-on-0, all that stuff I love, and I've stealing from you, right? And we implement into our session. So I just want to kind of dive into your philosophy as far as coaching goes. I'm sure that could be a 5-hour episode in itself, but just briefly summarize, what is your philosophy on coaching basketball?
For me, it's really about, understanding your players and, really trying to work with their strengths and with their weaknesses. I think over the years I've really learned that, the elements of spacing and ball movement and particularly shooting with girls basketball, man, it's huge, man. And if you have kids that understand how to space the floor, they can drive in gaps, and then you have players that can actually make shots from the perimeter. You can have a really, really solid girls basketball team or boys team.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of goes along with my philosophy is, really just spacing, taking really good shots each possession, defending at a high level, rebounding, all of those things, man. They go into, I think, a winning philosophy.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
And what would you say is, like, because from what I've seen when you guys were at Florida Prep and then now at Palm Bay, you guys have a culture that's probably like no other in girls basketball around here. Mm-hmm. And that's not hating on anybody else. Everybody has their ways, but you guys are like a family, right? So is there anything specific that you've done to build that culture that you're aware of?
Yeah, it's intentional. It's very, very intentional. When I first got into coaching, I didn't realize how much the cultural aspect of things, matter. You just think, hey, man, I got a bunch of really good players. And so, you can get people out there and roll the ball out and play. But the teamwork, the bonds that that players have with their coaches, with their teammates, it's really, really critical. So we're very intentional about our culture. We do a lot of things in the off season to build that. We have what's called cliques, which is sometimes used as a negative connotation, right? You don't want to have cliques, but when our teams, we encourage it. We actually get the girls in groups of teams with people on their team that they won't necessarily always spend a bunch of time with. And they're responsible for each other. They have to check on each other's grades. We do a lot of team bonding and competitive exercises amongst our team together. And then we kind of culminate that with a really big week, our last week before we get into the season. And it's kind of like they design shirts and, for their team, and they're competing against another team, on the team. But it's been a hit, man. It's really been good as far as just bringing them together. And, we try to keep everybody that's in our circle. And for us, it's really just, the coaches, the players on the team, managers. We try to keep all of the parents, the fans, all of that. So we try to keep all of that stuff out of what we're doing.
Okay.
Because it does affect it.
Oh,
it really
absolutely. Yeah. No, everything plays a part, right? Everything matters. And so you say you keep the parents out of it, right? But your parents are still very supportive and very involved, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have some sort of communication and relationship with them.
Yeah.
And so how would you explain that? Like, what is your take on parenting and your just relationship with parents?
I think as a parent, your responsibility is to understand the philosophy of the program or the coach in which you have your kid playing for, right? And then your responsibility is to trust. If you're going to be a part of it, you got to trust what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And once that happens, then some really, really great things can happen from there. And I think the best scenarios that I've seen with some of the kids that have really excelled is really because their folks have been 100% bought into everything that's being asked of them. They're not really questioning, what the coaches are doing. They're not questioning playing time. They're not questioning accountability. And those kids really just thrive. And then on the flip side, I see it every year. I've got one or two kids whose folks, they just don't buy in.
They're not fully bought in. Yep.
Nah, they're not bought in. They're there, but they're not bought in. They have expectations of these amazing things happening for their kids, but they don't want to hold them accountable. They don't want anybody else to hold them accountable. So it's challenging, man. But from a parenting standpoint, if I could give advice to parents, I'm a parent now. My daughter, she's growing up. She's starting to play the game, and they're starting to get into sports. And I would just say, man, like, put your kids around people you can trust, and when you do that, like, let them be, like, let them go through the good stuff, let them go through the tough stuff, the bad stuff, the good, whatever it may be. They're gonna come out better for it in the long run.
Absolutely. So what I heard there was, number one, don't micromanage, right, and just put the trust in the coach. And two, what I heard about the ups and the downs is I think too many parents try to protect their kids, right? And they're trying to keep them on an up the entire time, and that's just not life, right? You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, you're going to have your struggles, and becoming a person, becoming a human, an adult, whatever you want to call it, basketball can be a great life lesson for that, right? If they lose a game, let them feel bad. They're supposed to. They lost the game, right?
100%, man. I think the game is such a replication of life, right? So, you got good things that are happening in a game scenario. You might make the three, but you may miss a defensive assignment. Your coach may really get on to you for that. You may get in foul trouble. Maybe you got to sit on the bench, and now you got to cheer for one of your teammates. There's just so many things that happen just within the game.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you allow those things to happen, you allow your kids to go through it, to process it. It's just a reflection of life.
It is.
They're just going to be so much better off, going out into the real world, because we know everything ain't sweet out here.
It's not sweet out here. No, I'm learning. I'm growing up. I'm actually about to be a dad myself.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
So I'm excited. Girl dad.
Girl dad. Oh man, I'm girl dad times 3. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, like what you just said, basketball is a metaphor for life. It's so true, because you're just not, even the best of the best have off games or off plays, off possessions, right? And they need to be coached through that, or they need to be able to figure it out, right? And so one other thing that I kind of have in my head about what you just said with the parenting is, and I've kind of been trying to develop my philosophy on this, so maybe you can give us some insight. I think that yes, I completely agree that there's too many parents that are too involved in trying to micromanage their kids. But I also think that some aren't as involved and as knowledgeable as they should be. And so where do you think that line is? Where do they draw that line? Because certain kids have a lot of potential and their parents know it, and they want to maximize that. And then there's obviously other parents that maybe are delusional and they think that their kid is a little better than they actually are, and they're trying to get too involved. And so I think there needs to be a balance, because if your kid does have potential, which again every parent thinks their kid does,
Right.
you want to maximize that, and you want to make sure that their coach is on the same page as the parent and the kid and everything. So where do you think that line is between not micromanaging but also having trust in your coach?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line. I think parents, they really have to really look at their kid, from the scale of like, look, maybe this can happen. I think it's important for the coach to also have a relationship with the parent. So let's just say, I'll give you an example. A parent that's not overly involved, maybe she's a single mom, right? She doesn't have a bunch of time to be at practice every day and to do this or do that. I think it's the coach's responsibility to make sure that they can go talk to that parent and just help them understand, like, hey, this is where your kid is, right? They're doing well. These are the things that they're going to, need to take to reach their goals. I understand you can't be here all the time, but continue to support what I'm doing. I think that is really such a good gauge of really just allowing the parent to kind of get a feel for where they are. And some parents, they just jump in. They just think they know it all. And but there's an educational standpoint that you have to learn. I think even dealing with your kids, you may not know the game as a parent, and I think you need to try to understand it. Most of the issues I think that come up with kids and parents haven't happened after the game. I can't tell you how many kids that, they tell me like, my parents make me watch film after the game. Like, we all have to sit down and watch it together. I can't even get out of the parking lot before my folks are trying to tell me what I did or did wrong or this and that and the other. I think that's too much, man.
Yeah.
I really, really
No,
do.
I
And
agree.
when you come from a coaching environment, like if you're at Palm Bay, you're hearing enough coaching. Like
Yeah.
if you're a kid, you're hearing it. You got good coaches on the staff. Our culture is basketball. So why would a parent need to go and spend any whole bunch of extra time talking to their kid about something that the coach just kind of beat on them for
Absolutely.
time? So I think it's just understanding, man. It really is. It's,
No,
it's just trying to understand.
And what I'm hearing too is that there's a difference between being a coach and being a parent, and you have to know your role, right? Knowing your role is huge. If you're not their coach, don't necessarily try to coach them. Let the coach them. He did his job before, during, and after the game, and then you need to do your job as a parent, which may be different. There may be certain things that overlap, motivation, certain things like that, but for the most part, the parenting should just be support and encouragement, and really not worrying about the X's and O's so much, or shot selection and different things like that.
Parents don't know the role that they play, and they don't know, really sometimes they don't even know the role that their kid is actually playing on the team. And I get really frustrated because a lot of parents, they feel that their kid's role is to score, right? So they everybody thinks that.
Everybody, yeah.
That's the gauge of whether you play good or bad.
Facts.
Well, you scored or you didn't score. And again, the environment that I've been in coaching, it's just so much bigger than scoring, right?
Definitely.
You've got to box out every possession. You've got to rebound. You have to defend. You got to keep your man in front of you. If your man beats you, don't foul. You don't want to put people on the foul line. There's so many little things. Take care of the ball, right? Like, don't turn the ball
Communication.
over. Like, it's so many things that lead into winning other than scoring.
Oh, yeah.
But when you watch and you look on social media after the game,
That's all people care about.
nobody's talking about if
Yeah.
their kid boxed out each possession, which the coach, I'm telling, hey, you got to box your man out. Like, every play is non-negotiable. The parents don't care about that.
Nah, yeah.
Because sometimes they don't understand really what their kid's function is or what their role is, or maybe it's not what the parent wants it to be. So the parents need to encourage their kids to do what the coaches ask them to do. And as long as everything is in line with that, I think it makes for a really good scenario.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree. And there's when everybody knows, when the kid, the coach, and the parent all understand where the kid is currently at and where they're trying to go, they're gonna get there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If the parent is pulling in one direction, the coach is pulling in another, and the kid, it's like a boat in the middle of the ocean with everybody rowing in a different direction.
Right.
You're gonna stay stuck, and you're gonna be frustrated and wonder why I'm not going anywhere. Right? So, there was something that you said. What was it? Oh, so like the boxing out and all the other stuff that goes into basketball besides scoring. One of the things, I don't know where I heard this or read this, but I'll ask you, right? How many seconds should it take to shoot a shot?
Probably under one. If
Under a second, right? If you have a good shot.
If you got a decent release, right?
And how many shots should like an average player be taking each game?
You know what? I'll just gauge it off my team. If you're an average player, you're probably taking 6 to 10 shots a game.
6 to 10 shots a game.
Yep.
So that right there, if it takes 1 second to take a shot and you take 6 or 10, let's say you're one of the better players and you're taking 10 or 15, right? 15 even. That's only 15 seconds out of a 32-second game, right? That people are basing whether their kid played good or bad on, right? There's all that other stuff, running the floor, getting back on defense, boxing out, communicating, right? That I think people just completely overlook when that is what ends up equating to winning, right? Obviously, yes, we have to score more points than the other team, so scoring the ball is good, but scoring doesn't happen without all those other little things.
It does not happen at all. Yeah.
So I want to transition this a little bit. I love this, where this convo is going so far about basketball, knowledge, everything like that. I want to talk about travel basketball.
Okay.
Right? And I want to hear your thoughts on travel basketball. I personally love travel basketball, and I think it's the highest level of competition that kids are going to get from basketball. I think there's a lot of maybe debate over whether kids should be playing travel basketball, whether they shouldn't, and I think certain kids aren't ready, certain kids are, but I think if you want to be the best and you want to understand basketball at a high level, you have to compete against other players that are the best. So that's kind of my philosophy on it, is that if you really want to be good and you're playing in a rec league or only playing at the park, you're not exposing yourself to all the good players out there that are in different cities, different states, and even different countries traveling to play in these tournaments, right? So I think that's my take on travel basketball. How do you view travel basketball?
You know what? Travel ball has become so watered down now because of the monetization of it. You know, people figured out probably about, I think, 10, 15 years ago that there's a lot of money in travel basketball. And so when I was growing up, you know, playing travel ball, it was really just the best guys from the area all playing on one team. You know, on the north end of the county, there was a bunch of us, and then on the south end of the county, you know, you had a bunch of the guys on the south end that lived on the south end. They played together, and that's all it was, you know. And but you know, travel ball is great. I think that it has become a place now where it's more so about the financials on the lower end, right? And then there's no barrier. Anybody can start a travel ball team.
Oh yeah,
anybody can go in. You can literally.
You got parents are starting travel teams.
Left and right. They have no history. But again, travel ball initially got started for kids to gain maximum exposure, and then for kids to have an opportunity to actually play in front of college coaches. And that to me is the function to me of a good travel ball program. When I gauge and I judge travel ball teams now, I look at them from this standpoint: who are you helping get to college? Who are you helping get to college? Last year, how many kids from your program signed scholarships, you know, are talking to coaches, are communicating with them? What's your network like? That's how it goes. And so what we do with our program, you know, from our oldest teams down to our youngest, we have young teams that we start playing. But those younger kids and parents are actually looking to the older kids in the program, because now they can see, like, well, hey, there's Emma this year, you know, she's going to Notre Dame. Hey, you know, hey, there's Alanya. Hey, there's Trisha Carmer, you know, she's going to Houghton. You know, and it's not just Division I, it's Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO. You're doing your best to put kids in school to help them get, you know, an opportunity to get their education paid for and keep going. And it's even deeper now, right, because of NIL. If you got a super talented kid now, they can actually make a bunch of money.
Making some money, in
college, you know, by you know, picking the right school, getting the right exposure. So I'd like to see, you know, there be on a national scale more barriers to entry for travel ball, for club ball. But most of the stuff right now, man, it's glorified rec ball. It's not travel ball.
No, and I get that for sure. There's the high level of travel basketball, which you guys partake in the big tournaments all around the country, and then there's, not to mention names, but there's certain organizations that are just putting together a quick weekend tournament, and it's rec level players that are playing travel ball, but they're not getting the exposure and the benefits that you just said.
Tyler, it goes back to, defeat and understanding, hey, I go and try out for this team. I didn't make it. Do I go in the gym and do I get better? Or does dad go and start a team for me? That's what happens. And that's the society that we live in right now. It's that sting of defeat that, hey, you didn't make the team. Go and work harder. Now it's turned into, now it's like, hey, man, we'll just start our own team. Yeah, that's fine. We've got resources, we've got money, we can rent a gym, we'll start our own team, and we'll go from there. So, like I said, I don't think that's always bad, but I do think it has watered down what travel ball is. From an educational standpoint, parents don't know what true travel ball actually looks like.
Yeah.
Until they're out there and they see a baseline full of coaches watching kids play and compete and try to really fight for scholarships and stuff. They have no clue what that looks like.
And so you said barrier to entry. Would that be like, how would you, I know obviously it's just an idea, but how would you want that to look? Would it be like teams have to, is it the teams that have a barrier entry or individual players?
I think it should be teams. I think that, each region or each state has a certain amount of, teams that can actually participate, and you have to actually go and try to travel. So like I said, in our state, I would consider us, we're probably the largest from a number standpoint organization. But you've got ourselves, you got Essence. They're a Nike program out of she used to be out of Tallahassee, but they're in Daytona now. You got the Miami Suns, you got Central Florida Elite. There's probably 6 or 7 really well-established travel ball programs for girls in our state. And, and they've been proven to help kids get to school.
Yeah.
And so, and fortunately over the years, we always didn't start as that, but quickly once we realized that's what travel ball was, and this is the what we need to be pushing towards, that's what our model is now. We're just trying to help kids get into school.
No, and that's great. That's what the kids need. And parents and the college coaches obviously want to see that. So let's dive into that a little bit. I know you guys have at East Coast United a few different seniors that are going to college this year, right? Mm-hmm. And you named a few of them: Emma, Alanya, Trisha,
Jazz, Major. Alex Merceron, Samari Roll. That's a lot of kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you obviously have relationships with those college coaches, right? Mm-hmm. And so what has that process been like? I'm sure you've been in it for years, so I'm sure it's evolved, but how has that been, just kind of learning and networking with the college coaches and hearing about what they want and what they expect from players?
You know what? It's been great, man. When you want to just get really the inside track of like what you should be teaching your kids, what they're looking for, all you have to do is have conversations with college coaches, and that's
100%.
It helps so much in trying to understand what they're looking for from a recruiting standpoint. I go to a bunch of college practices, so I get a chance to see like what those practices look like at the next level. We try to emulate those things at East Coast United and over with us at Palm Bay. And so I really feel like, we just try to give our girls an advantage of really just understanding like, hey, this is what it's about. My dad, he does a great job of really networking with college coaches and, building relationships. And that's the business that we're in. It's a relationship business. Once you can deliver on a couple of kids, to schools, then those coaches, they come back and they trust you.
Exactly.
They
no,
say,
for
hey,
sure.
Who do you else have you have coming up? How's that 6th grader or that 7th grader that you got? We need to be following them. So it's good. You just start building that pipeline, and it's fun, man. It really, really is.
I bet. And I'm glad you said that it's a relationship business, because I think I say that at times to parents and players, and they maybe don't get it the right way. So it is, right? If you don't know anybody, nobody can recruit you, right? And so and I think it goes the same way for middle school players going to high school, right? A lot of middle school players have never met the high school coach, and then they show up to tryouts and expect to make the team, right? And we're just talking about players that maybe are borderline, could make it, could not.
Right.
If they had a relationship, I'm sure they would give themselves a lot better of an opportunity to make that team, right?
Yes.
And so people throw out the word politics in basketball. I think politics are just part of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's going to change them. The system is the system. I think you got to work your way in it, right? And
Yes, yes. I'll tell you politics. Like, Emma Risch is a McDonald's All-American this year, right? And, you know, as long as we've known her, I've always thought she's just one of the best kids out there.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, how can you not? And but the process of her being ranked where she is nationally, the process of her even being selected as a McDonald's All-American. It was a lot of relational things.
I bet. Yeah.
It was a lot of things that needed to be done as far as places that you went, people that you knew, and just kind of putting yourself in the right space.
Yeah.
And then Emma just being as good as she is.
No, and that's exactly
performing.
what I was going to say is
and she
let's not undermine obviously her
she's-
performance. She's able to go out there.
She literally, like, she's done it all.
Yeah.
We played a couple of weeks ago, and we had a game during Christmas time against St. Thomas, man, and it's just like all these people are there watching, and man, Emma just, like, she scored 35. Like, it was no big deal, man. And so I was a decent player. I wasn't like that, but I could imagine like being like considered one of the best, and then having to show up each moment, each time, and have that pressure on you, man, to perform. So shout out to Em, man. Like, she's a beast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's quiet. Emma's
Yeah.
like quiet and humble, but like she's like this warrior deep down inside.
No,
man.
and
She's
that
beast,
that's.
bro.
I'm glad you're touching on all the right points here. 'Cause I met Emma with you obviously when I think she was in 7th going into 8th, or maybe 8th going into 9th. So 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
At our first workout in Florida Prep. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I do remember.
And
that,
I
man.
remember her being one of the youngest, and me just being like, "Whoa, you said she was a 7th or 8th grade, or whatever grade she was in."
Right.
And obviously now we're here today. She's a McDonald's All-American. She's one of the top ranked players in the entire country. She's going to Notre Dame, and you've been with her since what, 3rd grade?
Man, we've been rolling since 3rd grade.
That's
man.
nuts.
But the funny thing is that it never started about being about that. It always started with, just her having a love for the game, and again, her parents being trusting people and just saying, hey, Emma wants to be a part of your program. Here you go. You got her.
Uh-huh.
And so, she kind of just grew up, man. She kind of grew up playing the game and loving it and having fun, and she still, she's just joyful when she plays, I think. And so now she's a senior, right?
Uh-huh.
And I get a chance to sit over there, and I'm watching, man. Like, I'm more of a fan now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like
You've
like
done your
truly,
job. Yeah,
like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
for real, man. Like, I'm over there coaching and stuff, helping Coach Sarah out, but I feel like I got the best seat in the house. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a
Front
big
row,
fan.
court
Yeah,
side.
man. I'm a fan, so yeah.
No, that's got to be a great feeling. And I try to never take any credit for players, right? The players are the players. They do the work. We're guides as coaches, right? But I would give you some credit. Obviously, you've known her since and been working with her since 3rd grade, right? And so what would you say is, like, if you had to, obviously this is never going to be able to happen. We're never going to be able to duplicate or clone Emma Risch, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a parent out there with, like, let's say a 3rd to 5th grade daughter, and their daughter loves basketball and they want them to be the next McDonald's All-American in Brevard County, what's your advice? How can they get to that point?
I would say from a parenting standpoint, you have to do and do everything that you can to put them in the right situation. From a player standpoint, Emma has always been one of the hardest workers. So again, like, people see talent, they see her size, right? She's 6'1", 6'2" now. She can shoot, deep, and make shots from everywhere. It's just crazy. But the hours, man. Like, if I could just tell you about the hours that she's put in the gym, she's put in a lot of time just really working on her game. And then, again, it's no hype. You have to perform. You want to be a McDonald's All-American, like, you want to be anything that's really, really good. I don't care how much work you put in. There's still a performance piece.
Yeah,
to
the
this.
results got to be there. Yeah,
It's got to be there. Where you got to be able to, when the lights come on, like, you got to be able to get it done. And that's what she's done, man. So I would say if you were cloning Emma Risch, have a humble spirit. Have a work ethic that is unmatched. Be extremely coachable. I don't remember any times over the last however long I've known Emma, that you can't coach her hard. You can coach her really, really hard. And great thing about Em this year is she's known as being this really, really great scorer. But if you go out and look like at our stats, she leads us in
Rebounds, assists,
pretty much mostly every single category.
That goes back to what we were talking about being a complete player.
At this point, M's not even talking about the McDonald stuff. She wants to win.
Oh yeah.
And so she's like, man, like,
that's what's
coach,
up.
like whatever I got to do to go out. If I got to go get 10 rebounds, I'll go get you 10. I'll go. I'm gonna box out every play. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to help our team win. And so again, from a standpoint, that's why she is and where she is going, where she's going, and has done what she's done.
Oh yeah.
It's different.
And so you guys are in playoffs right now, right?
Yeah.
Road to states.
Yeah, we're trying to get there, man. Got a beast of a road ahead of us. So yeah.
But do you think you like you guys?
I
for
always
the
like
state?
us.
Oh yeah.
Our senior class. I like Em. I like Dub, and I like Jazz. Maybe.
Is everybody healthy right now?
Everybody's healthy. We look
Beautiful.
good, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yeah. I got you guys. Give me a reason to take a trip out to Lakeland.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep this moving. So one thing that I think a lot of people don't show or talk about is the negatives or the challenges, right? And so that's something that as we keep this podcast going, I want to make sure that I bring up, because this is called the 90% podcast. And we call it the 90% podcast because the game is mental, right? Sure. And when I'm saying the game, I mean basketball, but I also mean life, right? And the game of life. And social media nowadays is showing all the highlights and all the good and people on vacations and everything like that. But there is some downsides to being one of the better coaches in Florida, running one of the biggest AAU programs, helping athletes, right? So what would you say, if you had to just kind of give us, what are some of your mistakes, challenges? What have you learned? Where have you gone wrong? Things like that.
Let me see. So from a mistake standpoint, I think just early on in coaching, just not collaborating with people enough, just feeling like, you have to be you versus everybody. When I first got into coaching, our community here in Brevard County, unfortunately, is not always the most connected community. People don't always really want to work with each other as much. And so I kind of took that mantra early on in coaching. But I would tell you probably over the last 5 or 6 years, the moment that I kind of started opening up like my doors as far as like, just things that I had access to and trying to help other people around be better, I think things got better for me. I think it's really been more enjoyable to do that. So so a huge mistake is thinking that coaching is you versus everybody else. It's really not that. It's a world of people out here that are just great. I think about some of the other coaches in the community. Coach Corey. He's over at Coco, and Coach Brian, Coach Josh over at Vieira, Coach Logan over at Vieira.
All those guys, great guys.
Yeah, great guys, man. Tracy Williams, Coach Dewell, T. Shannon. It's just so many guys here now that I think we're all just kind of working together. As best as we can to try to help grow basketball.
No, and I literally love what you just said about like having open. You've always been open door with me. I think I don't know how I got in contact with you, but somebody said, hey, you need to hit this guy up. I think I texted you, and you said, yeah, come to practice, and then I came there, and you let me start working them out, right? So, right. And you said like it's been better for you, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think this ties perfectly in with the podcast, it being 90% mental, right? And really 90% podcast, what I mean by that too is we want to give people initiative and a way to take themselves out of that 90% and get into the 10%. And that 10% may be being one of the 10% best basketball players, best coaches, engineer, whatever it is in life, right? And I think there's principles and a mindset behind all of that. And you just touched on one of them, of being willing to give and not just hold everything back, because you said it's gotten better for you since doing that, right? And I feel the same way. I think coaches and trainers out there maybe try to hold back information or whatever, and you can look at it from a money standpoint, people that just want to keep all their money. What I've found is the more I give, it just comes back full circle, and when it comes back, it comes back more, right? Yeah. If I give somebody the knowledge I have, I end up learning more and more and more, and then by the time it comes back and I'm ready to give it to that person, I have more knowledge to give, right? And it multiplies when it comes back around.
Right.
So
it's a key principle, man.
For
sure.
All right, we're hitting this time where we got to wrap up. So let's figure out one or a couple more things. Academics. Are academics important for basketball players?
Man, they are huge,
Why?
man. Well, you know what? I think it's a discipline, right? You know, again, I'm gonna keep it real. I wasn't like this great scholar student that spent all his time studying and doing all of that. Like, I get it, and I have players that are like that too. But the studying aspect of it, time management, the discipline, like, there's going to be some kids, they're going to be really good basketball players. They're not going to want to go and, get a master's degree and do all of that. But I try to talk to them about knowing what you want to do and being disciplined. And so I think the academic portion of it is a really disciplined, it's a disciplined element of their lives, whether they like to do it or not.
Yep.
You have to dive into it. And, if you can't be disciplined in your academics, there's only so much you're going to be able to be disciplined, to me, in basketball. It's just your life in general.
No, they correlate, right?
It correlates all together.
And that's what discipline is doing the things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know you have to get to where you want to go,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Let's see. So we got that. All right, I guess we'll kind of just wrap up with your final thoughts on. We'll do this. Let's do a speed round real quick, where I'll just ask you random questions. We'll go 5 random questions, and then we'll wrap up with the final thoughts. So I didn't write out a speed round this time, so I'm just gonna brainstorm these off the top of my head.
Got you.
And we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
Favorite restaurant?
That's a good question. Wow.
You can only choose one.
Seafood station.
Seafood station?
Seafood
okay,
station.
shout out to the seafood station. All right. Favorite NBA basketball player?
Steph Curry all day.
Favorite NFL team?
You know what? I'm going to go with the Jags right now. More so because of Wani. But I'll go with the Jags.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl in a couple days?
Great question. Is Palm Bay playing in the Super Bowl?
Palm Bay is not in the Super Bowl.
I don't know who's in the Super Bowl then. No, I'm just playing. I'm going to go with Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
You know what? In 5 years, I see myself, I really see myself, kind of at a different level, in a different stage of my life. My kids will be older then. I've got some dreams and aspirations business-wise and things and stuff like that I'm working towards daily. So, I see myself continuing to be successful and really continue to help, grow our community here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I believe that's everything. We went through a lot of good stuff here. I think this was a little over 30 minutes of great information, a lot of fun. Really, we want these podcasts to be informative, but more just, I think I was asking a lot of questions, but I think this is kind of just mine and yours typical conversation, right?
For sure.
If I call you,
it's
we're
like
just
a lunch. It's like when we go out to lunch,
Yeah. So
No,
this is
good.
cool for other people to maybe hear some things that either they're not thinking of or just get a different perspective from a coach and a trainer on those things. So I guess we'll wrap it up right here. Any final words or closing remarks from you, EJ?
Nah, man, just want to tell you thank you. I think this is great what you're doing. Keep going. And hopefully this information that's getting out from everyone that's sitting down with you and from yourself, man, can help, people really grow and really get an understanding about some things, man. So it's good. It's good. This is dope.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming on. And this was part 1 with EJ Murray. We'll definitely get you back on the podcast at some point. We have a list of people we want to get on, but I think me and you have a lot more that we could talk about, right?
For sure.
We'll definitely need a part 2. And to everybody listening, I just want to thank you guys for all your support so far. This is episode 5, and every single episode, I feel we've gotten more and more feedback, and it's gotten better. And I'm just excited, right? Just to keep connecting with people in our local community. I might bring on some people that are in other states or countries and kind of get their perspective on basketball, life, and things in general. And we're just going to keep this thing rolling until we get a few people from the 90% into the 10%, right? Because we want to have a mindset, right? 90% of it is mental, right? However you want to look at that, and then we'll dive deeper into that in these podcast episodes. But get started. Whatever that thing you want to do is, 90% of it is just you're thinking about it. Just do it. Just get it started, right? So that's my outro for today's episode is Nike's motto, which is just do it. And again, thank you, EJ, for being on. I definitely really appreciate it, and I'm excited to see where you guys end up in this state playoff run. Hopefully you guys come home with some rings.
For sure. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it, man.
All right, guys, we're out. Thanks for watching.